like sexual trauma. What is sexual trauma and how it shows up in men and women. And also you work a lot with pleasure, right? And how can pleasure, what potential it has to heal.
Yeah. So sexual trauma, yeah. So how it manifests in men and women. Well, usually it comes through the physical body. So for men, if they're experiencing things like premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, porn addiction, these things, but like more like the body symptoms, there's usually a sign of like some sexual trauma. Something's going on the psychological level. And then for women, it's like, you know, pain in the vagina, like when they're having sex, just feeling like shut down or like low libido, you know, just overall, just no real connection to their, sexuality. Yeah, those are the main things, like feeling like in the physical body. And then even women, you know, having irregular menstrual cycles, that can also be a manifestation of some sort of sexual trauma. And when I speak about trauma, you know, like it's a pretty intense, heavy word, trauma. Like it sounds, even just that word is like intense. But, you know, you can have many different levels of trauma. So, for example, like there's soft trauma, like a woman might have, I don't know, had like just been touched inappropriately by someone, or she might have had the full hardcore trauma, which is like rape, you know.
Mhm.
So any sort of thing, and same for men, you know, it's not like there's just because it's soft trauma, it's not important. Like it's still some sort of trauma, or like violation of physical boundaries or sexual boundaries is a legitimate thing, you know. So usually like it just shows up in the body and in the sexual like act like itself. Like if there's some sort of pain or dysfunction, then it's usually indicating like something deeper, some emotional disconnection. And then like so what was the second question about pleasure?
Yeah, using pleasure to heal.
Yeah, so I mean, well, if someone's disconnected, if they're numb, it's like it's hard to just use pleasure to heal because they're numb. So it's really the way that I find is to access more pleasure is if there's a numbness, then it's actually to access the pain, like what is there, because usually it's like there's some deep unresolved pain, emotional pain, you know, that hasn't been accessed, and that's blocking their system from actually accessing pleasure.
Mhm.
So it's like this kind of catch 22, like, you know, it's like, oh, I just want to feel good all the time. It's like, well, are you ready to actually go to the the dark side first? You know, like not that it has to be this like really intense thing, but just that's a common thing that blocks pleasure is like a suppression of pain. And I think it probably manifests more in men, I think, than women, because, you know, just from what I see is, and just by how, you know, you even shared about like men being disconnected from their emotions, there's a lot of conditioning around like men to not feel, like just as young boys, even like, oh, don't be a pussy or a wimp, or, you know, like all these things that maybe their fathers said or the teachers, so they suppress their feelings more, and then that blocks them to feel more pleasure. And the same thing happens with women, you know. It's like, yeah, a lot of women are even told just to stop being so dramatic or so emotional. Like I even received that from my family, like stop being so sensitive. It was like I was like a child, you know. Like, and so there's like, then that started to shut down some parts of me, and then that blocks pleasure. So we really need to be willing to kind of just be honest with ourselves and feel what's there, you know. And that opens up, it's almost like our body is like a pipe, like there's like a energy system flowing through us that's like a pipe, you can imagine. And then these emotions are like gunk in the side of the pipe that's like clogging it. So that pleasure or that orgasmic energy, life force energy, it's the same thing. It can't flow through. So you have to like flush out the pipes, like, and that means like just feeling whatever that thing is, and then it can just get flushed through, you know? Yeah.
Totally. And it's, as you said, it's a process that, you know, if you want to see the light and you want to experience pleasure, you have to first go to the darkness to clean what's there and face your demons.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, and they talk about that in all mythology, like, you know, the hero's journey. It's like, you know, he goes on his quest and then he has to go into all the caves and face the dragons. It's a metaphor, like we have to face our dragons in order to follow the hero or heroine's journey. It's like there's always going to be a dragon somewhere.